points right now. That's a big number. This morning's lackluster jobs report and President Trump's new tariff policy clearly having a major impact. The Labor Department says just 73,000 jobs were added to the U.S. economy in July, far fewer than expected, and revised figures show June with the weakest job growth in more than 4 years. President Trump is also cementing his break with America's longstanding free trade policy as he announces sweeping new tariffs for the entire world. More than 60 countries now face higher rates. The new tariffs for any country with a trade deficit is now at least 15%. And more than 24 nations are being hit with an even higher percentage. These new rates will go into effect on Thursday. CNN is covering all the angles with Kevin Liptak over at the White House, Matt Egan in New York. Matt, let me start with you on the jobs report. Update our viewers.
Yeah, Wolf, this was an ugly report about the most important part of the U.S. economy, the job market. We learned this morning that the U.S. economy added just 73,000 jobs in July. That was weaker than expected. The unemployment rate went from 4.1 to 4.2%.
My impact.
As expected, still low, but moving in the wrong direction. But the big thing here that has economists and investors on Wall Street alarmed is the fact that the U.S. economy added almost no jobs at all in May and June. There were these massive revisions downward to those 2 months, showing that the economy added about 250,000 fewer jobs than previously known. June at just 14,000. Some context, that's the lowest since December of 2020. When you dig into some of these...
Hasan, listen to me. Don't even give Republicans the fake W that the market is good, because it is not. These tariff dips left and right are dog shit for the market, and Kamala would have given us a higher stock market. Bro, I don't think you understand. I am fundamentally at odds with you if you think that I give a shit about the stock market performance. Okay, I just spent the last hour explaining to you in great detail that, like, the stock market performance does not actually mean your situation is better overall or the average person's situation is better overall. And you just came in and you were like, well, my stock portfolio would look better if Kamala Harris was the president. That attitude is at the heart of why we are not getting the changes that are necessary and bouldering towards fascism. That's precisely my point. My point is, unless we move away from this kind of attitude and re-envision what a healthy economy looks like by putting labor first, by putting average Americans first and their existence first, we are cooked.
Sectors, almost all of the job gains in the month of July came from one sector, and that is healthcare. Other sectors, including manufacturing and business services professionals, they lost jobs. Leisure and hospitality, job growth in that key sector, that's bars, restaurants, hotels, it slowed to almost a complete standstill. And so why is this happening? Well, two big things. One is the immigration crackdown. That is making it hard for businesses that want to hire to find the workers that they need. The other big factor, of course, is this historic trade war. All of this chaos with tariffs that are seemingly changing by the hour, it's paralyzed a lot of businesses. CEOs, they may want to hire, but they feel like they can't because they don't understand the rules of the road. The bottom line here, Wolf, the job market has been so resilient for years, but right now it is coming under significant pressure.
A lot of pressure indeed. I want to get to the new trade policy that's unfolding, Matt, right now. Some countries are celebrating their new tariff rates while others are slamming the U.S. Give us some perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at historically high tariffs from the Trump administration. The big key here is that countries that have a surplus with the United States, right? Countries that the United States has a trade surplus with, their minimum tariff is going to be 10%. Countries that the United States has a deficit with, it's going to be 15%. That's the new minimum. But we also know that starting on August 7th, number of countries are going to have even higher tariffs than that, including Taiwan at 20%, India 25%, South Africa 30%, Canada on the non-USMCA compliant goods 35%. The highest in the world is Syria. The other big development is the White House has announced a 40% tariff on transshipments. These are goods that go from high tariff countries to low tariff countries before they come to the United States. This is a 40% tax on top of existing penalties. Bottom line here, Wolf, is we are talking about historically high tariffs that we have not seen in the United States in almost a century.
Interesting. Kevin Liptak is joining us from the White House. Kevin,
They made the ships woke. They're transing the ships. I heard that.
the president has been negotiating with two of America's biggest and most important trading partners. We're talking about Canada and Mexico, our neighbors. Where do things stand on that front?
Yeah, and I think the relative fate of Canada and Mexico gives you a good illustration of how the president has approached all of this, because they have fared dramatically differently in this trade war. When it comes to Mexico, President Trump spoke to that country's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, yesterday and announced this 90-day reprieve from the heaviest tariffs. So they'll remain at 25%. They were expected to hit 30%, but the president held off as he tries to work on this new trade deal with that country's president. He says that their relationship is improving. He says that the southern border makes a uniquely complicated trade deal to try and strike. Canada has fared very differently. The president jacking up tariffs on Canada from 25% to 35% for what he says was lack of cooperation in trying to combat the fentanyl crisis. The president has had obviously a very testy relationship with that country and with its new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who said in a statement that Canadians will be our own best customer. He says that they'll work to diversify their trading relationships throughout the world. And so in these two examples, I think you have a good illustration of how the president is approaching all of this. One, these interpersonal relationships continue to be very important for the president. But when it comes to Canada and a number of other countries, you see the president using tariffs and using trade to try and exert his other geopolitical priorities. I think the other big question is whether all of this is set in stone. The president has obviously in the past shown a degree of flexibility on these rates. I think it is clear, though, that we're now entering a very different trade era.
Economist and the president of the Budget Lab at Yale University, Natasha Sarin, is joining us right now. She was also a counselor to President Biden's Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen. Natasha, thanks so much for joining us. I'm anxious to get your thoughts on the July jobs numbers that were just released this morning. Economists expected a much higher number. What's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is that what we are seeing in the economy is that the tariffs are really starting to bite. Because what happened this month is the labor market has proven to be weaker than we anticipated, both for this month here in July, but also these really substantial downward revisions for May and June, which indicate to us exactly what the models that my colleagues and I at the Budget Lab have been producing, which is when you have tariffs at these incredibly high levels, the effective tariff rate in the economy now, post all these new deals that we saw over the course of the last few days, is at about 18%. That's about 7 times what it was when President Trump took office. And that is going to lead to a smaller economy. It is going to lead to 500,000 fewer jobs in the economy. And frankly, that's what we're starting to see.
And as you mentioned, Natasha, numbers for May and June, jobs numbers, were revised down dramatically by more than 250,000 jobs. May saw just 19,000 new jobs added. June had only 14,000. These are huge decreases from where they were previously reported. What does this tell you about the numbers?
Well, what's really interesting.
I genuinely don't understand. Like, I'm not an audio pervert. I don't care that these glitches happen, but I truly don't understand how CNN has not fixed this problem. Like, every single one of their videos has this issue. I don't get it. Like, do they not have a single person? Do they not have a single person working over there that just like looks at the YouTube videos after the fact? Am I the only guy who is watching CNN YouTube videos? I don't get it. It's crazy. Reminds me of someone. No, my audio is spectacular as opposed to CNN. Jesus Christ. And also, once again, this is a one-stop shop, okay? This is a one-person operation. And we work through a lot of those problems in real time while we're doing live production. This is a VOD that this is a VOD issue with CNN all the time. And it's also like a major media conglomerate. Okay.
Interesting, Wolf, is that I think it kind of comports with what you might expect in a world in which there's just so much uncertainty around where these trade deals and where policy is ultimately going to land. Because if you're a business in this country and you're trying to think about making decisions about new workers to bring on or where it makes sense to invest or where it makes sense to build, you're frankly in wait and see mode because you don't at all know the environment in which you're going to be operating in. You don't know how much it's going to cost to import parts to build those cars. You don't know the environment in which you're going to be able to bring in different types of products that you need to be able to sell if you're a retailer. And so I think what the economy is reflecting is that that type of uncertainty really has quite seismic consequences. And we're starting to see it show up in the labor market. Also this week, though, you're starting to see it show up in inflation. You're seeing durable goods inflation. That's particularly the sectors where the tariffs are having the most bite. It's things like furniture, consumer electronics. Inflation in the last 6 months has been grown at the highest rate that it's grown at any time in the last 4 decades absent the pandemic. So this is an economy that sort of on both dimensions with respect to inflation and with respect to the labor market is showing signs of real challenge.
The president has been claiming almost every single day that the U.S. is the, quote, hottest country in the world when it comes to the economy. Listen to what he's been saying. I want to just play this clip.
We have the hottest country in the world now. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like he's just kind of saying guys, again, not a big economy guy, okay? Not the biggest economy guy, but it kind of feels like he's just saying okay? I don't know, man. It just feels like he's just making up. At a certain point, we got to go, hey, boss, your audio is crackling. My Sennheiser. Okay, stop. Why are you adding your own username, dummy? I got it. It's funny. You're an audio pervert. Okay.
We have the highest stock market we've ever had. We have the best numbers we've ever had.
So, Natasha, what are you?
Yeah. In my opinion, today's job numbers were rigged in order to make the Republicans and me look bad. Just like when they had 3 great days around the 2024 presidential election, and then those numbers were taken away. Okay, but you're literally describing what the same person did for Biden, doing it for you. I don't get it. Like, he is saying that the very same person that he's now firing did this for Biden and now is doing it for him. And now he's saying it was bad when she did it. It was good, like she was working in favor of the Biden administration when she did this exact same thing for the Biden administration. But now when she's doing the exact same thing for him, it's bad. Right after the election, jobs were massively revised downward, making a correction of over 818,000 jobs, a total scam. Jerome Too Late Powell is no better, but the good news is our country is doing great. I don't think the country is doing great. Because if it was, you wouldn't be doing this. Whatever the this is, okay? He's a idiot. Once you start viewing everything he says through this lens, it will make sense to you all. No, I know he's an idiot. I know that. I understand. I promise you, I understand that. It's just like, how stupid could he get is still something that has the capacity to shock me. A Trump stan, a Trump follower, someone who has followed Donald Trump for fairly closely for quite some time.
What's your reaction to that? What do the numbers actually show?
Well, the thing is, when President Trump took office, we actually had a very, very strong economy. The labor market was very strong, and you had inflation. It hadn't gotten all the way back to the Federal Reserve's 2% inflation target, but it was well on its way. The sort of challenge that the economy is facing right now isn't that we've had a financial crisis or that there's been some sort of seismic event like COVID. What's happening right now is we have this man-made crisis that's come as a result of these trade wars where it's impossible for businesses to make any real decisions.
Like, one of the funniest parts about this like horrible situation overall is that things are slated to head in this direction regardless, unless the Democrats or the Republicans make the necessary changes that actually improve people's living conditions, living standards, and dramatically restructure the way that our economy is organized. They're never going to do that. Their job is to literally not do that. Okay. But Trump, on top of that, is accelerating the demise with the actions that he takes that make no sense whatsoever. It does genuinely feel like this is a necrophilic state that we're in, where it's dying, and the remaining things that we have, the remaining industries that we have, and the remaining like state No, I'm saying necrophilic on purpose. I'm saying that they're the corpse of America. Okay? They are having sexual intercourse with what remains of the carcass of the American state. The select few people. It is very much the demise of the USSR. Okay? It's giving. Wait, why'd you say gaming? Why are people saying copium gaming? Oh, is it because did the Steam thing download completely? Oh, that's why. You heard the Steam notification. Yeah. I know. Okay, calm down, everybody. Yes, gaming will happen today. It will. I got a hashtag ad from China. Wild, but also appropriate analogy. That's what it is.
About how to think about investment, and also we're
Dude, this guy keeps spamming it. Would you do an interview with Tucker Carlson if his producers reached out? Yes, I would. Okay, I would. He has a ginormous platform. It would not be a positive one, but I would. I've said it before. I will go on any platform.
consumers, because essentially tariffs are a tax on literally everything the American consumer is buying. When you tax those goods, you make them more expensive, and that impacts the pocketbooks of the American people to buy those goods, but also changes their choices about other goods that they're going to be able to buy if the prices of things they need for things.
Breaking news this morning, economic news, brand new jobs numbers just out. You can see them behind me. In July, the U.S. added just 73,000 new jobs, below expectations, the unemployment rate at 4.2%. But the big news, really big news, major revisions for May and June, major downward revisions. Those months much, much worse than thought, really making them two of the...
It's crazy because they cooked Brandon when this happened. Trump literally brought it up. Trump brought this up with the Brandon regime too. Max Blumenthal, don't agree with all his takes. Obviously, neither do I. Calls it the necro economy, a corpse that produces no real goods in manufacturing. Only remaining goal is profiting off death and weapons. The deadly health insurance industry scam, the inefficient and deadly weapons and war industry are the only real things left. And the fake like AI and crypto. There's nothing there. Okay, with AI and cryptocurrency, there's nothing. There's no output. It's just not real. It's not a real thing. It's not like a tangible product. I guess you can say with AI, like it's supposed to be more efficient manufacturing, more efficient everything, but that efficiency comes at a cost, and that cost is the evisceration of labor. So what's supposed to happen? We just have like a 99% of the population be like servile little serfs, and the top 1% is just like unimaginably wealthy, and everyone else is just a slave. And it's all held together. There will be tremendous resentment towards that sort of thing, but all of that is held together by like a fascist military state with, I guess, the only remaining jobs being relatively well-funded soldiers that are there to make sure that any kind of discontent is stamped out violently. It's great. Fantastic.
The weakest month since the pandemic. Let's get right to CNN's Zane Asher for the latest on this. What are you seeing, Zane?
John, I don't know what to say. I mean, this number is bad. You mentioned the downward revisions, but if you look at this number, 73,000 jobs added compared to 115,000 that was expected. And you have to remember that...
Actually, I take it back. It will be cyberpunk. It won't even be like... There will be no function of the state, not even for military purpose. It will just be like private military brigades, PMCs that different corporations hire and are just like at a constant state of warfare with one another, and also consistently killing the working poor, you know? And we're not even getting any sort of cyber, any sort of like cybernetics or whatever. We're not even getting any of the cool stuff. No lifelike AI bot, artificial girlfriend. The best you'll get is like that horrible soulless grok.
In order for us not to be in the danger zone in this economy, the economy should be chugging along at least 100,000 jobs every month. The fact that this is below that is significant. You have to go back to October last year to find a worse number. As you mentioned, the downward revisions are really problematic. We're talking about June being 14,000 instead of 147,000.
That's a huge discrepancy.
That is huge. And then you think about May coming in at 19,000. And a lot of the economists that I've been speaking to have been warning me that, look, when you start laying off the people whose very job it is to actually collect the data, that is likely at some point going to show up in the numbers. And the discrepancies is really what concerns me. I do want to talk about some of the specific sectors. I'll start with some of the positive numbers that we got. As we've spoken about time and time again, a lot of the jobs growth has been driven by healthcare, right? This is a care economy. You have an aging population. That seems to be doing relatively fine. Part of the problem, and what I find really problematic, and I'm waiting for Trump to post on Truth Social about these numbers, and wondering what he's going to say about Jerome Powell and the Fed needing to cut rates. But when you think about manufacturing is the one sector that the Trump administration has said that they want to help. That this whole sort of tariff game is about helping that sector. That sector is losing jobs by the minute. When you think about the fact that factories are not able to import raw materials, that you have factories in this country that are sitting idle, that factories are laying people off, and you have at least 11,000 jobs being lost in manufacturing, that's a problem. Construction is another sector. That's sort of, 2,000 jobs added. I mean, that's sort of relatively lukewarm here. You're not seeing much movement in construction. That's a sector that is definitely dependent on immigration. And when you have the fact that a lot of people in this country who are immigrants or are from elsewhere are scared to show up to building sites, that's also a problem as well. We're seeing wages in construction actually soar and activity go down as well. Retail as a sector was okay, added about 15,000 jobs, sort of chugging along. Retail has obviously been problematic because of a little known company known as Amazon, but also retail is heavily dependent on tariffs as well. I'm really curious about what Jerome Powell is going to say, not just because of the headline number, because it's not really just about the headline number, as you know, John. It is really about what is beneath the hood, but also these downward revisions, which tell you that when I came on here last month telling you, the economy is resilient, that wasn't actually the case because of these downward revisions.
If we can get that other board up, because that's the one that actually tells the story. When you see job growth from month to month of 14,000, 19,000, and then in the 70s, hopefully that can come back up, because that's the news here. You've got three anemic months of jobs growth.
Right.
Put that side by side with this new announcement that came overnight of these tariffs, which may or may not go into effect. See, right here, this is the news.
Right, this is
you
the
look
news.
at this. These are, and I'll just walk around. These are two of the weakest months we've seen since 2020.
Right.
14,000, 19,000. Those are very, very weak numbers. And it's also just statistically, and for those who keep track of things, way off from what they said before. But if you looked at a 3-month stretch like this, you say, wait a second, we've got an economy that's got some real challenges.
That's got a lot of work to do. And when you think about the fact that Liberation Day, yes, April 2nd rather, Liberation Day, we were sort of wondering when we were going to see the...
It's so great. It's so great to call it Liberation Day. Last bar seems fake. I mean, who knows? Who knows what it will look like when those job numbers get liberated too next month, when we go back and we're like, actually, we had 12 new jobs, not 12,000, just 12. We were wrong. Our estimation was wrong. Oops.
Effects of these tariffs.
Except that won't happen because Trump will probably put like some freak at the Bureau of Labor Statistics who, if next month all of a sudden you see unprecedented job growth, tremendous job growth, just understand that the new guy is in charge, okay? Next month, we have we found out there are 1 million new jobs. It's crazy. So many jobs, more jobs than there are people. It's no one's ever seen anything like it. It's so much job. It's jobs. We're doing so many jobs. Jobs like you've never seen before. The hottest economy from the standpoint of heat.
On the labor market, and you and I were talking about the fact that, wow, we haven't actually seen it yet. Well, we did see it. it just wasn't reflected in the numbers. 19,000, as you point out, 14,000 jobs added in June. Clearly, it was having an impact. People were not hiring. You had so much uncertainty in this economy where employers just didn't feel comfortable actually hiring. And I'm wondering what Jerome Powell is actually going to do. He talked about just this idea of being data dependent. And now we're seeing the data really showing some kind of indication that these tariffs are absolutely having an effect now. And so a lot of people are saying that the September rate cut was already likely. It is now even more likely, John.
Zane Asher, thank you very much.
Of course.
Kate?
Thank you so much. Joining us right now for more on this from the White House is Stephen Myron, the chair of the President's Council of Economic Advisors. Stephen, thank you so much for being here. What's your reaction to this jobs report?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Look, this jobs report isn't ideal. There's no way around that. But nevertheless, I think that the downward revisions reflect a couple of anomalous factors. First of all, about 60% of the downward revision is due to quirks of the seasonal adjustment process. Then on top of that, there's the fact that the president created in a household survey since the president took office, he created about 2.5 million jobs for Americans, whereas we've eliminated about 1 million jobs for foreign-born workers. That's a result of our strong immigration policy of our.
Oh, that's what they're doing. Oh my God. This is the meta. Okay. The meta is, no, you don't understand. We're getting jobs for the Americans. Okay. We're kicking, the layoffs are just the Mexicans. Okay. You don't understand. Oh, hell yeah. Bro, this is great. Remember when they tried to pull this spin? Not that they needed to do this spin at all, because we're not going to see the Medicaid cuts until after the midterms. But they were like, no, you don't understand. We said we weren't going to cut Medicaid, and now we're cutting Medicaid by almost a trillion, okay? But that actually is for the Mexicans. We're cutting off Medicaid for the Mexicans. Your Medicaid is fine. They just literally slam that talking point on everything. No matter what. Whichever way this goes, they're like, no, you don't understand. The job layoffs are Mexican layoffs, Mexican-style layoffs. Americans are getting good jobs. I don't know how long you can lie like this, for the record. I don't know, because at a certain point, people are going to be like, this is not happening. I thought it was just the Mexicans, but I don't think it's just the Mexicans. I think I lost my job, So... yeah, J.D. Vance, I was told 6 months ago that America's losing jobs and the foreign-born gaining jobs was an irreversible demographic fact. Turns out you just needed a new president and a new immigration policy. Holy shit. I thought this was a typo. In the last 4 months, native-born Americans have gained 1.8 million jobs. Meanwhile, 1.5 million foreign-born workers, legal and illegal, lost a job. A sharp reversal of the last few years. Hell yeah. I specifically note legal plus illegal immigrants because the government does not separate the two groups in their data on foreign-born workers. However, based on numbers, a large percentage are certainly illegal immigrants. Yeah, no, this is certainly, no, this is happening. This is for sure. Also, once again, having to remind myself that Americans would quite literally rather be unemployed than work any sort of agricultural job. Yeah, no, you don't understand. They're lining up, dude. They're lining up, dude. You don't understand. They are working the crops left and right. He's going to send me a quote for something that is broken, like the fuse box or something. Okay. 0 white people lost their jobs. I swear to God, bro. Come on, bro. No, you don't understand, bro. You don't understand, King. You don't get it. Okay? White people are getting the jobs. They're getting good paying jobs right now. I promise. Not your cousin. Not you. You're white. You just didn't get it. But there's, I'm sure, white people out there that are getting the good jobs. I promise.
Strong border policy, keeping America safe, and eventually the outflow of foreign workers in this data.
Yeah. 85,000 Mexicans fired from the government, from the public sector. The public sector was just using the 85,000 Guatemalans that they fired, and pushed for an early retirement. That's what happened. This makes sense. I believe this.
We're bound to show up in the establishment survey, as they finally did this morning, too. Finally, we've been hearing a lot about uncertainty over the last few months, but that's all resolved now. We're creating trade deals left and right that have unlocked enormous new potential for the American economy. The tariff uncertainty is fading away. Tariff rates are settling in. The one big beautiful bill is now law. There's no more uncertainty over the tax bill either, over potentially the biggest tax hike in American history. And on top of that, there are such strong, powerful incentives in the one big beautiful bill for investment. Things like full expensing on investment in equipment and R&D, on new factory structures. These are huge. So it's all going to get much, much better from here.
But on those major downward revisions for June and May, I mean, June was initially said to be 147,000 jobs added, now revised to be just 14,000 jobs added. That amounts to the weakest month of job growth since December of 2020. And you attribute that to what, if it is not in part because of the uncertainty created in part by the president's trade war?
Oh, I attribute it to the combination of the three things that I described before. About 40% of that is due to seasonal adjustment quirks around teachers. Some of it is due to declining foreign-born employment, even as we created more American-born employment, and that is going to net out in a way that you see ultimately reflected in the data like that. And then finally, there's the uncertainty, right? Don't forget, we were in the midst of restructuring the global trading system in a way that hasn't been done in decades. The president is standing up for American workers and American firms for the first time in decades, and of course that was going to induce some uncertainty. It induced some volatility in financial markets, and we can see it induces some volatility in economic data too. But that uncertainty is resolved. The tariff rates are set. The one big beautiful bill is law. It's going to get better from here.
Congressman Stephen Lynch, a Democrat from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. Major downward revisions for May and June, making them the worst months since the pandemic. A miss on the jobs report just out. I want you to listen how the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors at the White House, Steve Myron, just described it to our Kate Baldwin.
You know, this jobs report isn't ideal. There's no way around that. But nevertheless, I think that the downward revisions reflect a couple of anomalous factors.
Not ideal. How would you describe it?
Well, we're seeing in our area, we've got 30% unemployment among the ironworkers union. A lot of those building trades being affected by the 50% tariffs against Canadian steel, where we get most of our fabricated steel from, aluminum as well. So in the building trades, we're seeing, they're probably the tip of the iceberg, but they're the first, I think, to be impacted. And I think that the impact will continue to grow from there. It's not an anomaly. This is the beginning of a bad sequence.
Bro, everybody said this was going to happen. Who is this supposed to be a surprise to? Like, literally everyone said that this was the inevitable outcome of the inconsistent messaging coming from the administration about, like, molesting the money over and over again. Not that it matters, because obviously the wealthiest people don't actually suffer here, because they can just like move their assets around in the market because their wealth is directly tied to stock performance. Ironically enough, those are the that don't have a real job. The ones that do not rely on wage labor. Yeah, the financial economy is immersed in the kind of wild gambling we saw leading up to the 2008 financial crisis. Honestly, even the wild gambling leading up to the 2008 financial crisis took years to implement through steady deregulation. This is just like, this is a level above that. I think this is just straightforwardly using the entire American economy and the stock market as a get-rich-quick scheme for the richest people. Just turning it on and off so that his homies can like buy and sell quickly. I don't get it. Bro, don't take this as a complaint. I'm not as mass sensitive audio per, but did you change your mic volume? You're hella quiet, but YouTube is loud as fuck. Dealing with it, whatever, to be honest, but just wondering. No. Wait, let me see. Maybe. Hold on. I think that's what's going on. I cranked it because I couldn't hear it. Hold on. Robert Reich says, we're seeing it all over again, this time with crypto, meme stocks, junk bonds, and investors pumping up shares of AI stocks without knowing what it is. Be warned.
For employment in the country.
Actually, 11,000 manufacturing jobs lost last month in those reports. You are deeply connected to the unions up in Massachusetts, South Boston, and elsewhere. What has the impact been of the president's tariffs to this point on manufacturing? And what do you think it will be now that he is announcing a new round of tariffs that he says will go into effect in a week?
So I've got about 6 major projects that have already gone through the environmental process, the community process, the zoning process. But those develop, and these are large-scale projects. These are all hundreds of thousands of square feet, lots of retail, residential units, some manufacturing. All those projects are stopped because of the uncertainty. How can you put a bid in, or how can a developer get financing when the cost of your products, whether it's steel or concrete or aggregate or lumber, which is also historically high right now, around 20% lumber from Canada. How can you give a bid to an owner when you don't know what your costs are going to be? Your margins can disappear like that. And so we're seeing the banks also very reluctant to offer financing on favorable terms because of the uncertainty.
Folks, let's go down to Washington, D.C.
Oof, it's loud.
Megan Casella, pretty big headline happening right now.
Absolutely, Brian. We're just hearing from President Trump via Truth Social that he is firing the Commissioner of Labor Statistics. He says effective immediately. This, of course, coming after the jobs report this morning showed lower than expected job growth for the previous month, as well as major downward revisions for the past 2. So the president focusing on those revisions in particular in this Truth Social post, saying he's firing Dr. Erica McIntyre for the Commissioner of Labor Statistics because she was a Biden appointee. She was appointed to her job in January 2024. He says this is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that overstated the jobs growth in March 2024 by approximately 818,000, and then again right before the 2024 presidential election. He says these were records. No one can be that wrong. We need accurate jobs numbers. He goes on to say, I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified.
That's some China shit. Numbers are not looking good. Let's not publish the numbers anymore. That's so funny to think that that's China shit, especially when China is on the exact opposite trajectory, all things considered. Like, no, dude, I don't think that works anymore. No, it's happening in America. It's not happening in China. That's not China. I wish we had China shit going on here. Okay? What do you mean? I wish we had China shit going on. I wish we had a command economy and central planning and a robust industrial manufacturing base and jobs and consistent building, rapid urbanization, a network of high-speed rail and public transit that's readily available and very affordable. No inflation crisis whatsoever. That's China. It's so funny because I think one of my biggest points of vindication beyond people finally coming to the conclusions I arrived at a long time ago on Israel has been China. More and more younger people that aren't as readily hopping on the America is good and all the enemies are bad attitude are, because there's nothing to look forward to being in America. They're seeing all the cool stuff China's doing and they go, oh my God, maybe China's not so bad. They're not talking about the Chinese economy. I think they're referring to the tendency of the Chinese government to shut down publishing data when it's not very positive. For instance, the youth unemployment rate, sure. But once again, all things considered, they are doing much better than we are. And we're doing it here.
Important numbers like these must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. He says much more about McIntyre and about the revisions that we saw this morning, Brian. And towards the end of this very long post, he goes on to say, Jerome, quote, too late Powell should also be put out to pasture. So again, returning to those strong words for Jerome Powell here, Brian. But I want to emphasize a major move here.
Also, this is quite literally America shit from Trump 1 too. COVID testing. Numbers look terrible. We need to stop testing for COVID was literally the Trump 1 attitude on COVID, which is hilarious because they did not do that in China. They did the exact opposite in China. They were heavy-handed with their zero COVID policies for sure, and it created a tremendous resentment. People literally started rebelling against the state and then they stopped it. But like, that was that was, again, Trump 1 as well as Trump 2. He's just doing it for everything else now. It's great, man. It's awesome. Fantastic stuff. We are doing so good. I love
By the
it.
president. Those jobs numbers that come out every month, yes, they are subject to revisions. These are larger than normal revisions that we saw this morning. That's part of what you've seen the market reacting to.
Day in Trump's economy. Wake up, check the news. BLS, 10 billion new jobs created. Check my phone to see what today's tariff rates are. Norway up 20%. Cambodia down 5%. Go to my iPhone assembly line job where I make $7.25 an hour. Spend the next 4 hours putting chips inside of phones. Take 15-minute break. Check my fart Pisscoin holdings. Rugged. Watch the FOMC meeting. FOMC is just Trump. Trump goes on stage and announces he's raising rates from minus 10% to minus 5%. Also announces date of Jay Powell's public execution. Everyone to thunderous applause. Jerome Powell, really bad guy. We're killing him. We're killing him dead with a guillotine. AI manager scolds me for taking 16 minutes on my 15-minute break. It's only been 12 minutes. Call employee helpline to complain. It's also AI. Go home frustrated. Complain to my girlfriend about my job. She's also AI. Everything's computer. Everything's computer. Even girlfriend is computer. Manager's computer. Girlfriend is computer. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Just wait. Just wait. Everything is great. If you don't think things are great, don't worry. We got Palantir. Your identity numbers are all over. We are tapping in directly to your personal messaging on social media to make sure that there is no discontent. When we find out there is discontent, don't worry. Computer will come for you. And to make sure you no longer say you don't like it. It's great. Yeah, the guys for all the you will eat the bugs, you will live in a pod, you will be happy fear-mongering on the right. They've been awfully quiet about all this from Trump. Yeah, no, turns out all you needed to do to make them feel a little bit better was like, no, we're just making the Mexicans eat the bugs and live in the pods. That's all you need to do. You just need to say Mexican. And everybody goes, oh, okay. Oh, it's not happening to me? All right, got it. Cool. It is much harder to deify the president if every establishing shot of the White House subjects you to the goofiest building on earth. Wait, what? This is what they're doing to the White House? I hope it looks exactly like this and we spend the next 200 years getting repeatedly dunked on for this gilded garage extension looking monstrosity. What is this? What the f is this? Oh my God, this is literally Erdogan. Oh my God, he is Erdogan. Oh my God, the Turkification is so complete. We keep talking about the Brandonization, but this is some Erdogan ass right here, bro. This is straightforwardly the most Erdogan thing he's done. Oh, everything is. Oh, is there a cost of living crisis that I ran on fixing and then did not fix? Well, guess what, dude? We're building a palace. Sick, man. We're building an ugly ass palace. The new Rose Garden is finished. Oh my God. Oh, dude. Oh, I mean, look, we kind of deserve it. Don't you think? Don't you think we kind of deserve it? A little bit, like just grotesque, tasteless people just destroying what remains of like American cultural output piece by piece. Like, this is, God, I think it's lame to say, oh, this is idiocracy, but this literally is idiocracy. It's hard to say it's not. This is going to be like what? Sponsored by crypto.com and too, I assume, you know? Sponsored by Palantir and crypto.com. Sponsored by Trump Coin. The Dorito Steak.com ballroom is brought to you by Fartcoin. It's the greatest coin powered by farts. Okay. Blue Chew Ballroom makes you light up. He said he will name the donors, President Trump speaking to oh Jesus Christ, that was loud. President Trump speaking to reporters just now committed to releasing the names of the donors who helped pay for his $200 million White House ballroom, but he said he might ultimately cover the entire cost himself. With what money? Oh, I guess like one of there's no way he's gonna do that.
Are you gonna publicize the names of the donors? Are you gonna
Great camera work from this guy, by the way.
When I do, I'll release. How many donors use 200 million? Maybe one, me.
The ballroom building pic is AI, but the real render isn't any better. It's not right on the side of the building, but yeah, they wanted to slap this massive brick right next to the White House. Very post-glorious revolution, noble slapping modern pleasure palaces on the sides of older two-door buildings coated. Hampton Court 2, but uglier. Connor Banger on the White House. Stupid. It's an extension. Why are you complaining? We're making the White House even bigger. You missed this part of the story? Oh, this is the inside of the ballroom? Thank God we have money in the bank for this stuff, though. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, that's far better. That's important to do, I think.
All day, but when it comes to government statistics and the jobs numbers in particular, the independence of these agencies and the accuracy of the numbers has always been paramount. So accusing these agencies of politically manipulating the numbers is a major step here. A little bit of background on McIntyre. Yes, she was appointed to this position by President Biden in January 2024, but she's also a labor economist who served over 20 years in the federal government. She's held positions at the U.S. Census Bureau, the Executive Office of the President, and the Department of Treasury as well. So not someone who was just put in there at the end of Biden's term that was a stranger to government, more than 20 years in government. Brian, now the president saying he's firing her effective immediately.
We have a major escalation in President Trump's trade war. Last night, he announced new tariffs on dozens of countries around the world starting on August 7th at rates up to 50%. It's uncharted territory for the global economy, and economists say it could mean you'll pay more for all kinds of goods in the future. Nancy Cordes is at the White House with the latest. Nancy, good morning. What's going on?
Well, what's going on, Nate, is this is the day that the president has been promising for months, and here is the list he has just released. In many cases, these tariff rates are not quite as high as the ones that he first threatened to impose back in April, but they are still the most aggressive tariffs the U.S. has imposed by far since the 1930s. And U.S. companies will only have 7 days to prepare before the new rates take effect.
This is making our country very rich and respected again.
The president's new tariffs will soon apply to goods from all of America's largest trading partners. A 20% tax on Taiwan, 50% for Brazil, and 15% for Japan, one of 6 countries that cut deals in advance. In a new executive order, President Trump said he has to hike rates because America's global trade deficit poses, quote, an unusual and extraordinary threat to national security. Democrats called it chaos.
This is a deal, all right. It's a raw deal for the American people.
Trump is even hiking his existing tariffs on some Canadian products from 25% to 35%.
They've been treating our farmers very badly. They've been treating our country very badly for years.
The new rates will likely bring in more money for the U.S. government, collected at ports of entry by U.S. Customs. But it could also make goods more expensive. Already, U.S. inflation is creeping up after Trump imposed 10% tariffs in May. Furniture, appliances, and computers all cost more.
We now have a 25% tariff on this product that we didn't have a week ago.
Barton O'Brien owns Baydog, a pet gear company based on Kent Island, Maryland, with a staff of 7. He makes his products in China, Vietnam, and India.
I told you this was another lock early on. Even from before the election, I told you when Trump comes in and he says he's going to put these tariffs in place, he is going to hurt the small business owners that voted for him. Okay? Because all of these, like America is propped up by these small business owners that have like a couple people that they've hired that rely almost entirely on drop shipping, basically, like getting their products from China and then selling it with a markup to Americans. The funniest version of this, of course, is the MAGA stores. But yeah, I said this to Bradley Martin months ago. Yep. Dude, that conversation is so crazy. Look back at that conversation that I had with Bradley Martin about every single thing that I said that was going to happen with Donald Trump. Every single thing has happened. Literally every single thing that I said was going to happen with Donald Trump has happened. Like 100%. And it's not even, I mean, just like every single thing that I said was going to happen with the election, and all of the failures that I pointed out with Kamala Harris and her campaign also unfolded fairly quickly in real time. Great stuff.
Yeah, and sells them in 2,000 stores here in the U.S.
The only way for us to survive as a business is to raise prices and probably cut expenses, which means firing people. So tariffs are going to hit small businesses first, and they're going to hit small businesses hardest, and they're going to put a lot of us out of business.
Now, the White House argues that the tariffs are going to incentivize companies like his to move production to the U.S. where there's no tariff. But O'Brien told us that that would cost so much more that he'd have to hike the price of, say, his best-selling harness from $30 now to $150. In other words, Vlad, no one would buy it.